Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by Genesis House and the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction and recovery. Join your hosts,
the Podfather, Jersey Ed,
Miss Meg,
as they break the silence and speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery. Hey everybody, welcome to Friends in Recovery. I am not the Podfather, I am Sweets, and I am here with Jersey Ed, who seems to be in another undisclosed location doing, what are you doing?
I don't know what I'm doing, Sweets. I am on an unknown porch in an unknown
Ed's on an island. Whatever
I'm
island
on an
you're
island.
on, it looks very nice.
Hi guys.
Yeah. And then we have Carl with us today, correct?
Carl from SoberPod, yes.
From SoberPod, that's right.
I am in a man closet. That's where I am.
I feel like you've been here before, Carl.
Once or twice.
Yes. Welcome back.
I'm an occurring character. Yeah.
He is. Yes. He's the co-host. He's the standing guest star co-host today.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, why don't you tell everybody what they got in store for them today, Ed? What do you got coming up?
I will. I got Bob Mohr. If you guys listen to our ATC shows, guys, Bob Mohr, he's in recovery, and he's going to join us this morning about running through recovery. Actually, I just finished a huge run, Sweets, with what we talked about a couple weeks ago, and Bob and I will discuss that a little bit. And I know Carl's an avid marathoner.
Yeah. I was gonna say there's a reason why I'm here, because I'm here for the opposite end of the spectrum. Yeah. I am not here. I'm here for you folks who don't run and want to feel better about yourself. You just
That's right. That's right.
Carl's
Exactly.
here in opposition of running.
Yeah.
That's right. He's going to give us all the don'ts of running. So, and Sweet, you work out. Nobody.
I just went for a run this morning. I went for a run this morning. I go for a run every morning now.
Nice. Good.
I've been building up, like you said. I've been building up. You know what I mean? A little bit more every day. So
I've gone for slow walks. I go for very slow walks.
You do. You go for walks every day, Carl.
I do.
Use that as your.
Can I just say up front, the reason why I don't is because I lost my balance in my left ear 2 years ago.
That's right.
And so before that, I was running actually, and I really enjoyed it. But then, of course, this just took me right out of it. So now I walk just to maintain balance is kind of what I do.
Good. Well, if you want to find out about Carl's running and his walking, give us a call at 617. Sorry, Steve, I had to steal that from you. 617-379-1163. Leave us a message there. You can email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. And we'll be sure to get back to you. I always forget to give that number, so that's why I took that little intro there to give it out. So Carl, how's California? Carl's out in California. He's actually joining us very early in the morning out there. You doing good out there, Carl?
I am doing good, doing really good.
Right,
It's COVID's picking up though, and so it's a little different. The governor's just kind of issued mask warnings for everybody that nobody can go out in public without a mask, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, thank you for
different.
Thank you for coming on for us. We really appreciate it. And you got big shoes to fill for the Podfather. And
Definitely.
Yeah. So you want to tell us a little bit about SoberPod real quick?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Well, I will later on.
Actually, I'm interested to hear about Bob. I really am.
Right.
I want to hear what he has to say. You've obviously heard him before in the First Responders podcast, right?
Absolutely.
But I haven't. I did not listen to the episode. So
okay. Well, we'll bring him in now. I'll give him the intro here. Bob Mohr joins our podcast today to explain his method of running through recovery. He has come a long way from the start of his journey in 1997 in a prison cell. Along the way, Bob found an amazing relief when he was running. Over the years, he has ran a total of 48 marathons and half marathons individually and with running groups. He has found amazing support and a network with his running group. Bob has been in recovery since 2014 and wants to share with you about how running over 3,000 miles a year helps him to stay sober. Bob Mohr, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Ed, thank you for those kind words.
Well,
and it's more.
It's Mohr. Mohr, not
Mohr. Bob
Mohr.
Mohr. Okay.
That Joy's
That's right,
the
Bob
accent.
Mohr. Bob Mohr. Well, I gotta say something real quick, Bob. For the last month, you and I have been in a lot of contact, and Sweets. A couple months ago, we were just talking. I decided I was going to do a calendar run, and in Sweets, I think you came up with, let's do 1 to 15, and then 15 down to 1. And the calendar run is one. Every you run the day. Run the mile of the day. So day 1 is 1, 2, all the way to 30, run 30 miles. And so I like the idea, because I never did a challenge like this before, where Sweet suggested, I drop down, and I would kind of work my way down. But I got to day 15, and I said to myself, you know what? I didn't fucking come this far just to come this far, And I called Bob up, and when I was running 15 miles, I'm like, motherfucker, help me through this shit. You know what I mean? And he's in recovery, and he's a runner. And, just like I use Carl and I use Sweets for other things, as far as, a bad day or trying to get through things, I use Bob for that. And he said, yeah, you can do it. He believed in me, So I got back from my 15-mile run. I walked in my house, and I said, Stace, you're going to have to help me out here, because I'm going to try to run this calendar run, and I'm going to be useless probably after mile 20. So, and I was a lot of sleeping, and a lot of eating, and no participating with the family. So does that sound about right, Bob?
Yeah. The biggest advice I gave him every day he called me was, stop being a bitch.
Stop laughing, Carl.
Yeah, it's incredible. What did you end up with running? 277 miles?
Yeah, 78 miles. And then I had to stop. Yeah, I had to stop.
And he had to stop, and he was ready to give up. And I just reminded him it was a journey. So why not jump on a bike and finish out the remaining, 6 days?
It was 6 days, I believe. Yeah.
6 days, and ride those miles if you can't run them, because there's no use to your body for the longevity of running if you hurt yourself by running and pushing through. So
absolutely,
he did it. I mean, what was your biggest month ever?
Not that many. I probably maybe 50 miles a week, give or take, here and there when I was training for a marathon.
Right.
200.
So it's just incredible.
Maybe. So,
Yeah. So it was amazing.
Yeah.
I told you I think the most consecutive days I have ever done is 22 days. And I do that once a year. In October, I run 22 miles for 22 straight days to raise awareness about the 22 veterans that take their lives every year.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah, every day.
Every day.
Well, we didn't come on here to talk about me, and Carl didn't wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to hear about my fucking running.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I've heard about you running before, actually.
You did.
Well, you want to hear? So this morning, I'm texting with a friend. He's a race director for this race here, the Canal Corridor 100-mile race. And he's a Marine. He's also in recovery. I'm running this race in 9 days. Wow. And myself and 18 were pacing and guiding a blind and deaf veteran to his first 100-mile race. And as my friend Hugh and I were texting back and forth, I'm like, you know what, motherfucker? If I never stuck a needle in my arm, if I never got HIV, you'd be talking to a different motherfucker right now. You wouldn't be talking to me.
That is true.
Because of all the misfortunes and shitty choices in my life, we're sitting here right now.
That is right. Yeah. It was, but we did make the right choice to get sober and get clean and go on the right path, because that's how I met Carl. But
if we didn't make those shitty choices, we couldn't have made the right ones to get here.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you're right.
It's just Yeah, it was just brought
Yeah.
a tear to my eye when I was
Absolutely,
talking to him.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
that's how we all met. We
So-
all met through this crazy, Sweets was, Sweets is in recovery. We all are. And if we didn't take this
Right.
turn,
It's
I
crazy,
know if we
isn't
didn't
it?
take this turn, we wouldn't know each other.
If you really go back and you say we met because of our
Mhm,
shitty
mhm.
choices.
Yeah, absolutely.
you
So,
know?
Carl, speaking of shitty choices,
Yeah, I've made a few.
what's your take on all this, Carl?
Well, it reminds me like in the big book of stuff, right? And I don't know if you're a big book guy either, but I know that I'm uniquely qualified, right? Like, and that's the thing is like that gives me the all my shitty choices basically have led me up to here, and it makes me a valuable person to somebody else.
Yes,
And that's the thing is like, they talk about from a piece of coal to a diamond. All that pressure and all that bullshit leads up to this moment. And it turns you into a diamond sooner or later.
it does.
So
Right.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, we were pieces of shit back then, but we turned our lives around, and we all have,
Yep.
listen, we all have one thing in common here. I mean, obviously, you and I have something on top of that in common is the running piece, but we have one thing in common that brought us to here is the 12 steps, is the recovery, is our lives were a
Exactly.
fucking mess,
Yeah.
man. It was a complete mess.
Well, yeah, mine is every day sometimes, or because of
Yeah.
what's up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
what I
Well,
think. is up there.
Carl lets his thinking out. He doesn't even leave it in his head. Listen to Sober Pod. You'll hear all about his thinking.
Yeah, that's usually my problem. The no
well,
filter
it
with my
has become my
girlfriend.
asset actually. The one thing I was wondering about it's kind of funny. It's like you're running. Like when did it start and that kind of stuff, Bob. The other thing is I think sometimes in this world we need permission. So for you in your running, is it somebody else gave you permission to do that, or is it you just decided to start doing it?
Well, in 1997, I went for my 8th DUI. I had to go to prison, and when I got out, I was going to change the world. I did meetings in there. I was going to become the next best drug counselor. Blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
like we all do. And probably 8-10 months after I got out, I relapsed. But I didn't drink. I have not drank since 1997. So I substituted. I wasn't getting DUIs, sitting in crack houses smoking crack, but I'm not getting them fucking DUIs anymore. So, and in 2000, I knocked on my sister's door and brother-in-law, and I'm like, I'm done. I need help. And they let me live with them. And in living with them, I met this guy in Toledo. He started a program because to me, the reason I relapsed was the fucking 12 steps in AA. They were stupid. And this guy in Toledo was starting a new program called Racing for Recovery. And he did Ironmans. And he just, the enthusiasm he had when I met him was like, I want to be that guy, instead of saying I want to be like him. But that didn't work either. I mean, I literally, I would run. So in the Marine Corps, the perfect physical fitness test is 3 miles in 18 minutes from my parents' house, where I lived because I couldn't afford anywhere else. Every Friday when I got paid, I was still using, but I remembered this guy, and it was about 3 miles away. I would call the drug dealer and try to run there in 18 minutes, thinking I was going to be this guy and then get high.
Wow.
And
talking about living a double life, that is for sure.
Yeah. So through that, and I ended up homeless in 2007, and that was like the worst year of my life. And I was, people ask, when did you start running? I always say mentally or physically. And I turned myself into jail January of 2008. I was looking at 2 to 5 years. I ended up with 60 days in work release, or until I secured a job and found a safe place to live. And I got the job and I found a safe place to live on the 59th day.
Wow.
And I moved into this halfway house, and I was one of the few that had a job there. And I get up every day to go to work, and these motherfuckers would be sitting on the porch, smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee. They were sober and they were going to meetings all day, but most of them, can't say most, some of them I could see were where I was probably 5 years prior. They were taking a break, and they were going to go. They were the streets
Resting their nerves. Yeah.
And I would come home from work. This was a minimum wage job, by the way. And I was proud because I had a job. And I would come home and they'd still be on the porch, and I'd be like, fuck, this is not sobriety for me. I don't want that. I don't want to smoke cigarettes. I don't want to drink coffee. And I remembered racing for recovery, and I remember wanting to run that 3 miles in 18 minutes. And I took off from the basement of that halfway house every day, running through the hood. This was in the hood of Toledo, exactly where I bought my dope, my crack, my heroin, did all my dirt. And I ran with just pure hatred and anger for myself, for my family that I thought hated me, for what I did to my life. And through that, also going to meetings, living in that halfway house. It was definitely a 12-step house. The shit in my head started disappearing. And I started enjoying challenging myself. And from that point on, I would run 3 to 5 miles every day. Didn't ever want to race. Didn't know really anything about racing. Just ran to be calm. I didn't want competition coming from the Marine Corps. I just didn't want any competition.
It was just a peaceful place to go in your head and go running and get away from all the bullshit.
Yes,
Yep, absolutely.
At the end of the day, I was living in Texas. I moved down there in 2009. And I mean, I would come home stressed from the day's work and go and run in 100-degree weather every day. And it was awesome. It was the most freeing time. And I got into doing teen retreats down there. I was not doing meetings. That was my sobriety. The kids and doing the retreats and going to church and my running. And the kids talked me into running a 5K in 2011. And I ended up taking second place.
Hey,
I'm like, wow, this is
real quick, Bob,
cool.
we're going to take a break here. We're going to find a little bit more. I also want to go a little bit into another challenge that you had in your life also, is your HIV and how you overcame that and all that. Good. Okay. All right, guys, Friends in Recovery podcast. We'll be right back after these words.
Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery. Welcome back to the Friends in Recovery Addiction Recovery podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, Genesis House, for supporting this show, along with individuals in recovery and the people that love them. Friends in Recovery Community of Support holds events across the country sponsored by Genesis House in Palm Springs, Florida, Marlton, New Jersey, Newtown, Connecticut, and Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. The Friends in Recovery Addiction Recovery podcast is powered by your likes, follows, subscribes, and shares. And please be sure to do us a favor and leave us a 5-star review. And now here are your Friends in Recovery.
And we're back.
Welcome everybody
Hey,
to
we're
Friends
back.
in
Welcome to Friends in Recovery. Hey, one thing I wanted to mention, and the last thing you really kind of reminded me of it, Bob, is, and you too, Ed, which is to say, like, and I guess it's one of the things in my recovery that I didn't really think about early on, and it occurred to me as I was sitting at a therapist, and he was prescribing me, Effexor for my major depressive disorder that he suddenly gave me. And and I was like, I don't want to be on meds and shit, and I just didn't want to do that stuff. I was just kind of like, I just wanted to be far from it, And one of the things, it was like, I hadn't, at that point, I was like 2 years sober, and I really just didn't want to listen to anybody's shit anymore. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do the things that I've been, that I'm being told to do, which is like, I started to exercise, right? We talked about, during the break, it's like, I started actually running before I got all dizzy, right? So I started to exercise. I started to eat right, right? I mean, and then I started to sleep better, right? I mean, these things just kind of started to move into their own. And they say that if you are like, in major depressive and these types of things, like 60% of that stuff would go away, or the effects of that, basically, just by, exercising, eating right, and sleeping better. And, and wouldn't you know it, it's fucking true for me. So I don't know about you, Bob. Like,
Yeah.
is that part of it for you too? Because you talk about just kind of pissed off and angry.
Oh yeah. So after I ran that race, I didn't want to run again. I didn't want to run a race, and I was good. And that was 2011. Well, from 2011 to March of 2012, a person from my past started accusing me of giving her an STD and a whole bunch of social media bullying, whatever you wanted to call it back then. And I'm still doing these retreats, right? And some of the parents of these kids are seeing these remarks. And so I'm just like, you know what? Fuck that bitch. I'm going to go to the CDC and have a battery of tests and test for every STD and prove that bitch is wrong. And I did. I showed her. I did not have genital warts, like she said. I had HIV. I went March 5th, 2012 to driving down there thinking I'm going to walk away with a shot like I did a couple other times, hey, you got syphilis, you got this, here's a shot, you're good. And I walked away with HIV. And it was couple things. My heart fell down past my stomach. Thought about a pile of cocaine about this fucking big. Thought about crashing my truck when I left. And I remember this guy speaking for like an hour to me. I heard two things. Magic Johnson has lived forever with this. And more people die from diabetes than HIV. Everything else was wah, wah, wah,
Charlie
straight
Brown.
out of the Peanuts. Straight out.
That was my marriage vows.
I also had a I had a calming presence. I had a calming presence come over me. Like, one of the spiritual awakenings. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was something that told me I was supposed to teach. I left there thinking of taking my life. I slept with a shotgun right by my side for about 3 weeks. I know what the cold blue steel feels up here and gun oil smells like. But I also knew that I wasn't going to quit. And from March 5th of 2012 till October 23rd, I think it was, of 2012, I ran my first marathon, the Marine Corps marathon then. It was like a bucket list. I thought I was going to be dead. I thought HIV was what the late 80s was. And look at me now. So in 2014, through a shitty relationship, a whole lot of not dealing with some of my past, not dealing with dealing with the HIV physically, but not mentally. I think I've said this to Ed. I refuse to use the word relapse because I think it's a coward's word. I just made a fucking poor choice and said, I don't feel like feeling anymore. And I went and got high. It was for about 6 months, 10 days here, stay clean. You know how the story goes. So in that time, I had a doctor's appointment, and this is getting back to what you were talking about, the mental and all that. She asked me how I was doing, my HIV doctor, and I said, well, a little pissed off. I'm a little depressed. And the very first thing out of her mouth was, why don't we put you on a light dose of Prozac? I said, fuck you. I said, I have been around recovery 87. This is 2014. So I've been around, a little bit. I know things about it. I said, nobody in their right mind gives anybody an antidepressant without 6 months sobriety. And she said, well, I think I said, there's no thinking about it. I said, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm done with these HIV pills. I'm going to go out and run. And I quit taking my pills. I quit taking everything for about 18 months till I started getting sick. But in that time, I ran and I ran. I upped my miles from about 1,200 a year to 3,000. I met a friend that got me into 100-mile races. And like I said, I started getting sick. When I would get sick, it would take forever to get better.
Now, did you run, Bob, to get away from the thoughts of the HIV, or what you're?
I ran to get away from that. I was back to running at that point. I was back to running with anger and just, I was pissed off. I threw away 6 years of sobriety. I was pissed off. I threw away a relationship. I walked away from a house. Pissed off at the world. Everything was everybody's fault but Bob's. So, I finally looked in the mirror and, the one day, it was actually my high school wrestling coach asked me, do you ever think about where you got the HIV? And I said, you know what, coach, for a long time I did. But what was I going to do if I found out it was from that needle there, that person or that person? And it was just one morning looking in the mirror and you're like, you dumb motherfucker, you gave it to yourself. You knew what you were doing.
Well, you play in that arena, you know what you're playing with. That's the whole deal,
Yeah, exactly.
That's part for the course, unfortunately, sometimes.
So back to the medications, also one of the side effects at that time of the HIV medication I went out was depression. So, I found a doctor that works with me. He's a retired Army doctor. He's okay. When we close the door, he says, okay, we can throw hospital etiquette out and it's me and you, Bob. He speaks my language. He dumbs down to me because I'm not the brightest. But our appointments are, he pretty much asked me what kind of crazy adventures I've done in the last 6 months. And because with HIV, it's all in that blood work. That's all that really matters.
It's all about your count.
And of course, how you feel physically a little bit, but I never feel bad. And then, the last 2 minutes, he says, well, all right, pick your shirt up. Let me listen to your heart and make this official. and through that, I found a lot of peace. I mean, I run during the races and some of my training runs, I run with a little spite at sometimes. That's some of my fuel. Hey, fuck you people that told me I couldn't do this. Fuck you to the assholes that told me I'd never be a Marine, that I'd never get sober, that don't want to be in my life. Other times, anger still, some of what I've done to myself. There's a little bit of anger. A whole lot of joy, though. A whole lot of joy in looking up and just saying, why am I allowed to do this, God? what is my fucking
Exactly.
purpose?
Well, your purpose was to help. Your
tears
purpose
in
was
my
to help me
eyes.
get through the June run. That was the purpose. You're good
It's
now,
just-
so
It's always
amazing.
about Ed.
that's right. Always about Ed.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've noticed that.
Hey, Bob.
And that's like one of my, when I finish a race, like one of my biggest hashtags is
Bitch tears.
because you know us men don't cry.
So
Yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
want to make sure they check this box here. Is it about the meds? So did you go back on meds? Is it something that you did?
Yes, yeah. I've been on the same meds since 2016, Triumac. My CD count is almost 800, where anybody living with HIV that is about 500 is exceptional. I'm
That's what I say. You're
undetectable.
definitely undetectable at that point.
Yeah, and well, I just had my appointment 3 weeks ago. Everything is perfect. I mean, cholesterol, liver function, kidney function. I'm the healthiest I've
So
ever
if there's
been in my
anybody
life.
listening, I mean, the idea here is that, you know, the death sentence that HIV used to be, you know, back in the 80s, you know, 90s, those types of things, early 90s, you know, it's no longer like that. You can still now at this day and age live a, you know, completely full, productive life, you know, while you have HIV, as long as, you know, you're doing the things to maintain, you know, your health and, you know, just moving forward.
Right. You know what's more deadly than HIV? Addiction.
Yeah,
Addiction,
I was gonna say,
yeah.
alcoholism kills, you know, more people than, you know,
Yeah.
anything
Heroin
else.
overdose. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Bob, I mean, it's
Opium.
amazing that you can go through all this, run these races, you know, battle depression, HIV, drug addiction, made it through the Marines, you know, made it through a month of me calling you every fucking day. That was probably the hardest challenge that you've had to face, but but you made through that too.
It was
Congratulations on that
fucking
one.
that really got him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was I was very proud of you, Ed. It's an amazing journey.
Thank you.
And for you, for where we started, and then you starting to realize the mental journey you're on, it had nothing to do with the physical.
It was
part.
definitely more mental than anything. It really was, and I appreciate
That's
all your help through that.
And like I told you, that's what I tell when people ask me, what do I need to prepare for a 100-mile race? It's 2/3 mental. It's only a third physical training.
Exactly, because you can walk, you can crawl, you can do whatever you got to do.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, most 100-mile races are 30-hour time limit. That's an 18-minute mile.
That's easy. Well, you say that now.
Can you stay up for 30 hours? Can you stay up for 30 hours and keep
without cocaine or speed or crank?
Exactly.
Probably not.
No, trust me. There's a whole lot of Red Bull. There's a whole lot of Red Bull. There's a whole lot of Coca-Cola.
I'm sure. Well, Bob, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate it, and you know, it's an inspiring story from everything you've been through. We appreciate it, and you know, hopefully we'll get another update after your 100-mile race comes on. We'll you know, we'll definitely get you back on.
Like I told you, I'd like to get Aaron on first responders.
We will definitely talk about that. Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, Bob, maybe you can send some of those the bitch tier pics to
that's right.
There will be.
Please.
Hey, look me up on Facebook.
Hashtag bitch tears, everybody.
Yeah.
Look that shit up.
Thanks, Bob Mohr. We appreciate it. Well, Carl, that was quite a journey he has there, huh?
It's awesome. I mean, I it's the story arc, you know, we talk about like the hero's journey. It's like, I see that in, you know, Bob a lot. You know, you have that, just that adversity to overcome. And then of course, you know, living in today, I think that's just super fucking awesome.
I know. And you called me last night. You were bitching about walking up and down the steps the other day. So.
Dude, I got a bad back right now. I tweaked it. Let's put some shelves together. You know what I'm saying?
Good. Poor Carl. Sweets, are you with us, Sweets?
I am. I've been
what did you think of all that? You're a avid workout person, and I mean that was kind of an amazing story, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, most of the.
I thought he was going to say no. It wasn't impressive at all.
No, it's whatever. No, I think that like most of the heroes that I know that are out there and they're chugging along, they've been through something. You know what I mean? They had to face some significant adversity, whether it's a disease or a disease like addiction or whatever. They got to overcome something, and that adds an element to you. That adds an element that not every other normal person has. Right? It's a supernatural element that we're given, which is to be able to fight through things, to overcome things. And I think that when somebody who hasn't experienced that looks at us or looks at someone like Bob, they're like, Jesus, but when you've been through it, you have this new drive. You've got this new thing that just it pushes you. And, I have that in a certain way. I mean, I don't run what Bob runs, but I'm not practicing that. So, I mean, we all have these,
exactly.
we bring what we bring to the table. I fought through what I fought through, and it's helped me immensely in all of my, self-improvement and clearing out my headspace, and I'm grateful for it. And listening to Bob's story was inspiring, and I'm really happy we had him on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that what you just said, Sweets, clearing out headspace. That's so important to get rid of all that crap inside. And if it's through running, if it's through like you, Sweets, lifting weights, or Carl, what do you do, Carl? Just kidding.
Talk and bullshit.
You just talk and yell at people.
Bullshit, yeah. Get off my lawn, you kids. That's what I say.
He sits in a lawn chair and yells at kids all day. He doesn't work. He just sits there. No, but whatever it is, man, it clears our head and gets us out of all that shit that we're in, and the last couple of days that I haven't been running, I've been so anxious, and I don't know if that's because of the, it must be just coming off of everything, or, I just came off of a 30-mile bike ride 2 days ago, almost 480 some miles I put on my body, either running or biking, and that has to take a toll mentally, because I was out there
Aren't you due for an oil change now?
I am. I
am. Fucker into the bay, man.
That's right.
There's a problem right there. You need a tune-up and an oil change, Chief.
That's it. I'll go get one after this show.
480 human miles. That's like 2,000 car miles.
Yeah, I'm not even going to bring up the lube. I don't even know where that goes. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not going to
tune-up.
It's in my top drawer. Oh, I'm sorry. No. God. Anyways, well, guys, that was a great show. Carl, you going to come back and do another show with us?
Man, I'm going to be here for the long haul. That's it. I'm staying.
All right.
You can't kick me out now.
Can't kick you out. Good. All right. Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate everything. And Podfather, we miss you. You're in our prayers. We hope you're doing well right now. And that's it for Friends in Recovery. Jersey Ed, Carl, and Sweets. We'll see you next show, guys.
That concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Thanks to Genesis House for supporting those on the path to recovery and for keeping this valuable resource free for our Friends in Recovery community. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the show, email us at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. If you can't get enough of Mike the Podfather and Jersey Ed, you can catch them on Answering the Call, the First Responder Podcast, available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube.